Red Bull removed the rear wing linked to 2 consecutive high-speed crashes, sent Max Verstappen back onto the track with an older design, and somehow went fastest immediately. Verstappen topped first practice at Spa with a lap of 1 minute, 47.070 seconds. He beat Lewis Hamilton by 145 thousandths, Charles Leclerc by 207 thousandths, and became the first driver all season to lead a session without Mercedes or Ferrari power. For a few hours, it looked like Red Bull had solved everything. Then the truth began to surface. Verstappen dropped to third in second practice, finished 472 thousandths behind the leader, ran wide at Stavelot, sprayed gravel across the racing line, and forced a red flag. And that is where Red Bull's apparent recovery turned into a warning. Because the experimental Macarena wing was not removed because it was slow. It was removed because Red Bull feared another failure at one of the fastest circuits in Formula 1. Now the team faces a brutal choice. Trust the safer wing and risk losing performance, or repair the faster concept and risk putting Verstappen back into danger. Friday did not prove Red Bull was fixed. It exposed a car whose fastest version may be too dangerous to use, and whose safest version may not be fast enough to win. To understand why Red Bull's Friday looked so encouraging, and so alarming, we need to go back to the decision that shaped the entire weekend. Red Bull did not arrive at Spa with its preferred rear wing solution. It arrived with the safer one. That difference is crucial. The experimental rotating rear wing, known as the Macarena wing, had already been linked to 2 consecutive high-speed crashes involving Max Verstappen. One happened in Austria. The next happened at Silverstone. In both cases, the rear wing was lost completely. That is not a small defect. That is not a minor reliability concern. The rear wing is one of the parts helping to hold the back of the car against the track. It creates stability when the speed rises, especially through fast corners where the driver depends on the rear tires staying planted. Imagine riding a bicycle downhill, then suddenly losing the pressure from your back tire. You may still be moving forward. You may still have control for a fraction of a second. But the entire feeling changes instantly. Now imagine that happening in a Formula 1 car, at a circuit filled with high-speed corners, with almost no time to react. That is why Spa changed the calculation. Red Bull could not afford to arrive at one of the fastest tracks on the calendar and simply hope the wing would survive. The team had already seen the warning twice. A third failure could have been far more serious. So Red Bull parked the Macarena wing and returned to an older, more conventional specification. On the surface, that sounds like a cautious choice. But underneath it was a painful admission. The team's newer concept may have offered performance, but Red Bull did not trust it enough to race at Spa. And in Formula 1, trust is everything. A driver can adapt to a car that is slightly slower. He can change his braking points. He can protect the tires. He can search for time in another part of the lap. But he cannot attack a high-speed corner while wondering whether the rear wing will remain attached. That uncertainty destroys confidence before the car even reaches the limit. So when Verstappen went fastest in opening practice with the conventional wing fitted, the result felt bigger than a normal Friday headline. It suggested Red Bull had made the right choice. The balance was good immediately. The car responded. Verstappen found speed without needing hours of setup changes. And the stopwatch gave the team exactly what it needed. 1 minute, 47.070 seconds. Fastest of everyone. 145 thousandths ahead of Lewis Hamilton. 207 thousandths ahead of Charles Leclerc. For the first time all season, Verstappen led a practice session. And for the first time that year, a car without Mercedes or Ferrari power finished a session at the top. That is the kind of result that can transform the atmosphere inside a garage. Suddenly, the mechanics feel the decision was justified. The engineers see a direction. The driver feels the car beneath him. And a team that arrived carrying fear begins to believe it has found control. But this is where the first major flaw appears. Red Bull's improvement may have been real. Its advantage was not secure. First practice is only the beginning of a weekend. The track is still changing. Teams are still experimenting. Drivers may be using different tires, different fuel loads, and different run plans. The source does not give enough detail to claim Red Bull had the outright fastest car in every condition. What it does show is that Verstappen had genuine pace. And genuine pace creates expectations. That is why the second session mattered so much. Mercedes made significant setup changes between the 2 practices. Then the competitive picture shifted. Kimi Antonelli moved to the top. Lando Norris went second. Verstappen dropped to third. The gap grew to 472 thousandths. That is still less than half a second. In Formula 1, however, less than half a second can separate control from vulnerability. It can decide whether a driver starts on the front row or several places behind. It can decide whether the car runs in clean air or becomes trapped in traffic. It can decide whether a race is attacked from the front or spent recovering. And this is what Friday exposed. Red Bull had solved the immediate reliability threat by removing the Macarena wing. But it had not solved the larger performance fight. The conventional wing may have given Verstappen confidence. It may have given him stability. It may have reduced the fear of another failure. But the rivals were still developing. Mercedes changed its setup and found time. McLaren remained competitive. Ferrari had already been close in the opening session. Red Bull's safest solution did not create a safe advantage. That is the first reason the team would be worried. The second reason is even deeper. The Macarena wing was not removed because Red Bull had abandoned the idea. The team reportedly plans to bring it back once the mechanical reliability problem is fixed. That means Red Bull still believes the concept has value. It may still represent a faster direction. It may still offer something the conventional specification cannot provide. But right now, that potential is locked away. Think of it like owning the fastest racing shoe in the world, except the sole keeps separating at full speed. You know the shoe can make you faster. You know your rivals are improving. But you cannot trust it when the race begins. So you return to an older shoe. It holds together. It feels familiar. It may even perform well. But every lap comes with the same question. How much speed are you leaving behind? That is the trap Red Bull has created for itself. If the conventional wing is reliable but slower, the team risks losing ground. If the experimental wing is faster but unsafe, the team cannot use it. And every weekend spent repairing the concept gives rivals more time to move forward. That is why Verstappen's fastest lap did not end the crisis. It only made the crisis more complicated. If the conventional wing had been clearly slow, Red Bull would have had a simple answer. Fix the Macarena wing as quickly as possible. But because the older wing immediately produced strong pace, the team now has to understand whether the new concept was truly necessary. Was the Macarena wing offering a major performance advantage? Was it solving a weakness elsewhere in the car? Was Red Bull chasing a higher ceiling that could never be reached safely? Or did the team overcomplicate a car that worked better with a simpler solution? Friday did not answer those questions. It opened them. And then Verstappen's moment at Stavelot added another layer. He ran wide on the exit. The Red Bull entered the gravel. Stones were thrown across the racing line. The session had to be stopped while marshals cleared the track. There is no confirmed investigation into Verstappen over that incident. It was treated as a normal racing and track limits moment. But for Red Bull, the mistake still mattered. Because it interrupted one of the most important sessions of the weekend. Practice time is not only about lap positions. It is about information. Teams study how the car behaves with heavier fuel. They watch tire temperatures. They measure degradation. They compare different settings. They learn how the balance changes over several laps. Every red flag removes opportunities to collect that information. And when your team has just changed a major aerodynamic component, those laps become even more valuable. Red Bull needed to understand the conventional wing. Not only over one fast lap. Over a longer run. With changing tires. With changing fuel. With changing electrical deployment. The Stavelot incident reduced that opportunity. The gravel was cleared. The visible problem disappeared. The lost information did not return. That means Red Bull left Friday with encouraging speed, but incomplete knowledge. And that is a dangerous combination. Speed can create confidence. Missing information can turn that confidence into a setup mistake. Choose too much rear wing, and the car may become stable but slow on the straights. Choose too little, and Verstappen may lose trust through the fastest corners. Protect the rear tires, and the front may stop responding. Give the front more bite, and the rear may become nervous again. Every choice creates another consequence. Spa makes those compromises especially brutal because the circuit demands opposite qualities from the car. The long straights reward low resistance. The fast corners demand stability. The middle sector demands downforce. The elevation changes demand confidence. The battery demands management. The driver wants everything. The car cannot provide everything at once. And this is where Verstappen becomes both Red Bull's greatest weapon and its most uncomfortable truth detector. He can make a difficult car look competitive. He can reach a limit other drivers may not reach. He can take a setup that looks imperfect and still produce a fast lap. That helps the team. But it can also hide the scale of the problem. A brilliant Verstappen lap may suggest the car is healthier than it really is. Then he pushes a little harder. The rear moves. The tires slide. The car runs wide. And suddenly, the weakness becomes visible. That does not mean the Stavelot incident proves the conventional wing failed. It does not. The source does not establish that connection. But it does show how narrow the margin remained. Red Bull had removed the part it did not trust. Verstappen had gone fastest. Yet within hours, the car was third, the gap had grown, and the session had been stopped after his mistake. The team had moved from relief to uncertainty in one afternoon. And the biggest problem was still waiting beneath the surface. Because even if the rear wing remained perfectly reliable, Spa created another limitation Red Bull could not simply remove: electrical energy. Verstappen described the circuit as painful because of how demanding it is on the battery. The opening sequence consumes a major amount of deployment. By the time the car reaches the middle sector, the electrical assistance may already be reduced. That means the driver can have a stable wing, a balanced car, and strong tires, yet still feel the lap changing beneath him. The power does not arrive in the same way. The acceleration changes. The braking references shift. The rhythm breaks. And now Red Bull is no longer solving one problem. It is solving several at the same time. A rear wing reliability problem. A performance problem. A setup problem. A limited running problem. And an energy problem created by the circuit itself. That is what makes the Friday result so deceptive. Fastest in the first session sounded like a recovery. Third in the second session sounded like a normal change in order. The gravel looked like a simple mistake. Separately, none of those moments seems catastrophic. Together, they reveal a team with almost no margin. Red Bull has enough speed to fight. It does not have enough certainty to relax. The conventional wing may have protected Verstappen from another mechanical failure. But it also forced the team to race with a specification it had previously moved beyond. The Macarena wing may return. But only after Red Bull proves it can survive.